Hello and welcome to the Comic Book Network. This is your 12th episode and I'm your lovable host, Ian.
I'm your co-host, Ethan. So we have quite the episode for you today. Why don't you give us a quick rundown?
We've got gunfights, we've got action-packed sequences, we've even got gunfights.
You forgot about gunfights.
Yeah, we also have dogs.
Dogs.
And gunfights.
Good to get right back into it.
Absolutely. We are going on a 12-episode run of not mentioning Thanos. Can you believe it?
You know, everyone who's listening to this actually just lost the game.
Everyone.
The game.
You lost it for us, guys.
You lost the game because you thought about the game.
Man.
Unfortunate for them.
How did you do this?
It was clever and diabolical. I got it from Thanos.
Oh. No! No! I have to mark it down. That is 0 episodes we've gone without mentioning Thanos.
Mm. Rough life.
So, into our main topic, Thomas from the Block.
Well, today we're going to be talking about art in comics. What are your thoughts? Take it away.
All right. Well, I gotta say that there are a lot of art styles in comics, so it's hard to bring it down to just a few. But I will say that most of them fall into the category of either cartoony, defined, or in between. Can you believe it? Most of them fall into in between.
Yeah,
a lot of them.
And some of them are outside too.
Right, some of them are outside, and then there's like 15 or so other categories that then have subcategories and that sort of thing.
Really about as much development as Thanos.
Absolutely.
Ooh, 0 minutes.
Yeah,
I have to mark that down.
We are really killing today.
0 minutes without mentioning Thanos.
So, I have to say that cartoony comics are a great way to bring in outside readers, especially the younger demographic, because they can sort of transition well from cartoons to cartoony comics, because they have usually more depth color-wise, but they still have that sort of soft friendliness of a normal cartoon.
Yeah, the cartoons with more color are usually the lighter side of comics, you know. Right. The nicer, kinder, more vibrant, really.
Right, and that can be used to their advantage sometimes, where violence in those sort of comics will be more jarring, or like in the case of Scotty Young's I Hate Fairyland. He definitely went with a more jarring sort of comic because of that cartoony feel. But I think a lot of them, I think it's best when they balance the two. They use that sort of gritty realism of comics like Outcast or Karnak, and they combine it with the cartooniness of, say, Huck or, like I was saying, Scotty Young's artwork. As in the case of Saga, which I feel combines the two pretty well.
Yeah, a lot of art is mostly symbolism, which really adds a whole nother level to the comic, you know. Right. There's the comic and what it's saying and on the surface showing, and then there's kind of what you can tell from the art, you know. Like, I mean, in real life, like painters, you know, they express themselves through their art, and comic book colorers,
nice.
They also are expressing the characters in the book through their art.
And often the artist's job, their main symbolism purpose is for the emotion of a scene. And I think that even comes down to, say, cinematographers and directors in movies who use different tones and different hues to indicate a certain action or a certain emotion and really bring the audience, or in this case, the readers, into the story more so that they can understand what's happening.
Yeah, and on the kind of realistic versus non-realistic.
Right.
My kind of thoughts on that is, if it's going to be a very dramatic comic, like lots of ups and downs, then do be realistic, because that's what you want in a drama. But if it's going to be like more of a comedy, kind of funny, then you don't really have to worry about being too realistic, because in comedies you don't really want to get to know the character too much so that you can still kind of laugh at it.
Right, and following along those lines, I'll touch on this more in our Reads of the Week, but this week I picked up The Fix, which is from Image Comics, and it had that sort of grit, but it also had a very humorous sort of tone, and it didn't seem to fit as well. I think you can definitely benefit by using styles of art that are conducive to whatever emotion or genre you're trying to bring out of your comic.
Yeah, because really the art is the tone. It sets the mood, and also it can be used to set the setting, the time or the place. Like, back in the 60s it might be very vibrant or colorful, and then in the future it could kind of have a different color hue, like, more blue or something.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like in, say, Bucky the Winter Soldier, the Marvel Now series, they did a sort of similar thing, but more in reverse. Their past scenes were shown in a very psychedelic, sort of realistic art style, and then in the future, where it was more peaceful, there were a lot of more vibrant colors and more life in each thing. And I think that's a good representation of how comics should go about treating time differences by changing the art for each
changing
one.
The kind of filter over it.
Because every time period and every sort of scene has inherent tone to it, and I'm not just talking about like emotion tone, but also sort of the color tone. You associate colors with certain types of things, like heat. You would associate with maybe like red, orange.
Yeah.
So you kind of put those lights on for certain scenes.
Yeah, and a lot of times it depends on the character too, Like with Daredevil, when he's the lawyer, I've mentioned this in other episodes, but since this is about art, when he's a lawyer, it's like dark,
Right.
The art is dark, very little color, but if it's some other place, without him in it, then it's got colors, and then if it's him as Daredevil, then it's more red, as he uses his kind of senses to get around and find everyone.
That same technique is used in, say, Bedlam, where the main character exists in a world that's sort of black and white, like with Daredevil, but as he sort of doubles as a serial killer, which is a very light topic, probably should have used more cartoonish art. They didn't, obviously, but they sort of associate that persona as red, and they'll bring in red to that black and white and gray sort of art style, and that shows when he's in a more violent mood, I guess.
Yeah.
And it definitely links to the character. And those sort of dramatic examples aren't as common in comics, but they can be used pretty frequently. and can be done in a very good way.
Yeah, a lot of times art is like the music of movies. You know, it kind of works subliminally to show you more about the scene than it really shows you, kind of.
Right. And again, that mostly pertains to the color in the art rather than the art, because the art is the thing that's showing you what's happening in the scene.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I get your meaning. It's definitely sort of the subliminal sort of thing. In terms of realism, I'm not a huge fan of eerily realistic comics. There aren't a lot out there, obviously, but probably my extent is the sort of Star Wars. Not all Star Wars comics, but most of them have that sort of, oh, that's just almost real, where they resemble the actors so well and the actresses so well that it's a very real sort of sense, but it still has that cartoony softness to it. Have you read any comics like that with the sort of actors being portrayed as like comic?
Like I've mentioned, the Batman versus Superman prologues they look like the actors, and I think in that sense I like it because it sets you up for the movie.
Right, but they don't have like the same realism as the actors. They just have the actors, but toned down by maybe 2 levels.
You can still tell that it's definitely hand.
Right, and that's important, of course. And then you can go to even more extremes, like, as I mentioned, the psychedelic art of Bucky Barnes, or say the more insanity-provoking, the more discomforting art of some of Neil Gaiman's books, or even Madhouse on Mad Earth, which definitely has that sort of haunting, shadowed figures. And again, it just draws back to that emotion and what mood you're trying to evoke in each scene.
Yeah, and another thing about art that not everybody always thinks about is like the way the panels are laid out, because a lot of times that tells a story too. You know, instead of just brick panels for the scene to kind of flow in like a fighting scene or something, that helps portray the actual scene. You know.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite parts about both Original Sin and Iron Man, the new, all different Iron Man, is the way they break up the panels to sort of tell a story within a story. And that can be used to a very interesting degree. And even the dialogue boxes, where they place those in contrast to the art, can sort of lead your eye in different directions.
Yeah,
interesting.
It's helpful.
Right, and it can go beyond to tell a story within the story that's being told. So, any final thoughts on the matter?
I just wanted to maybe ask you, what's your favorite art
style? There's a lot. It dabbles between several, but I'd say usually I like to go more cartoonish styles, because I like, again, like you were saying, I like the more comedic, light-toned sort of art styles. Probably my favorite is Fiona Staples. As I mentioned, her art is amazing, and the cartoonishness of it is enjoyable. And maybe I'm blanking on his name, but the Superior Foes of Spider-Man, his run was very simplistic and at times could be reminiscent of Age's Hawkeye run. But it also had that sort of cartoonish minimalism that I enjoy. And it did dabble with some different color schemes, and that also shed a light on the characters.
Yeah.
Alright, so if there are no objections, I'm going to move on.
I object.
Why do you always object?
Because you always say if there's no objections.
Oh, that is a good point. All right.
I just object to you as
okay,
a person.
I object to you being on this podcast. You know what?
I'm fired.
No, I'm fired. I've decided to fire myself because I can't work with you anymore.
I shall work with Larry the Pop-Tart.
Larry the... You didn't tell me you were with another Pop-Tart.
I didn't think it was important.
Is he strawberry? I know he's strawberry. Tell me at least he's strawberry.
It's none of your business. It's none of your concern anymore.
Okay, I was really excited about getting to a sort of comic for my reads of the week. But, this whole Pop-Tart incident has kind of thrown me off. I guess I'll have to pop right back into my previous mood. Do you get it?
I quit.
Okay. I guess that's about the only way we could have gone from there. So I'm going to say that The Fix is my read of the week. My soul, I of course read more than just The Fix, but that is one to look out for. You guys should definitely pick it up if you haven't already. It was very comedic. It discussed a sort of topic that was incredibly original and enjoyable, which was a crime lord who is in the police. But wait, there's more. Are you on the edge of your seat yet, or you're making out with a Pop-Tart?
Shh.
Why are you doing this to me? It hurts so bad to see it right in front of me. But it discussed these criminals who are kind of they're dissuaded with the modern criminal element. They're not happy with how much technology has been evolving to prevent them from their criminal activity. And
right.
so...
And I find it justified. I mean,
right.
How could you stop these criminals?
And naturally...
It's how they make their honest fortune.
Right. Naturally, where would they go?
Jail.
Oh, they're cops.
Cops.
I think you forgot about that part, but yeah,
I did forget
naturally
about that.
they would probably go to jail. But who do they turn to for their criminal enterprises? None other than the people without technology. Yes, indeed, I'm talking about
The Amish.
woodchucks. Okay?
The Amish woodchucks.
No, neither actually. They go to seniors. They go to these very intense bingo games, and they start a little crime spree. And of course, no one can do anything about it because the police in that city are about as corrupt as police in any city.
That's very
topical,
offensive.
Political. No, I respect all you do, especially robbing bingos. But it was a very enjoyable comic. It had a lot of funny moments that were actually genuinely funny, rather than just the sort of sarcastic, oh, I'm so witty sort of humor that we have on the pod. I mean, that there is in other books.
Yeah, other books.
Other books.
Nothing we...
Other podcasts, yeah.
Nothing we... No.
Why did I even say podcast? I mean, we didn't need to bring that up.
It could have been a movie.
It could have been a movie, yeah.
Moving on. Letter of the week.
We're going to go directly to our letter of the week. But first, would you care to give the kind people our email?
Our email is thecomicbooknetwork@gmail.com.
And how do you spell that, friend?
THECOMICBOOKNETWORK@gmail.com.
You got it. All right. And you can always find us too, along with an easy submission form for your question of the week at The Comic Book Network, spelled exactly differently. It's actually in Russian this time.
Yeah.
That's not true.
It's
thecomicbooknetwork.weebly.com, and that also hosts our most recent podcasts as well as all of our podcasts. and links to every one of our social media accounts. So let's get right into it. We have this week's question of the week, and would you care to come up with a name? Now, again, I'll tell you, we're trying to keep these people anonymous, so we're making up names for them.
Let's see, week 2, I think we went with Thanos.
Right, and week 1 and week 3 and pretty much all the
last
weeks.
Couple of weeks we went with Thanos. So
we did go with 10-hour cyanide and happiness clapping sound last time. So
we did go with 10-hour cyanide
that
and happiness class.
That's kind of a hard one to top.
But I know how we're gonna top it.
All right. I swear if you say Thanos.
Larry, the strawberry Pop-Tart.
All right. So this question comes from Larry the strawberry Pop-Tart. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah,
All
I
right.
believe so.
What do you think of Rogue One and how people have reacted to the trailer? What would you like to see in it? So apparently there's been a lot of backlash, which I support because I hate women. Okay, that's not entirely true. There's been a lot of backlash.
Hates Caution, he hates women.
This is a very politically charged podcast today. Go Donald Trump. But when it comes down to it, they're not complaining for any good reason. I know. 10 to 8 now.
Faster than the Fine Bros.
But there's really no reason to give backlash at this point. I understand if they're maybe changing a male character to a female character. I can understand backlash for that. But when there's no prerequisite for it, there's no sort of pre-existing character, why not have a female protagonist?
Yeah.
Because like I've always said, they're definitely worse. And they're not equal at all. But why not let them be in movies?
Make them feel good.
Right, exactly. We get lots of girlfriends, just to be clear. Like, all of them.
And we keep them in our basement.
Shh.
So my thoughts on the movie, I'm just going to skip over the whole woman protagonist thing because
it's ridiculous.
I think it's stupid that people say, oh no, this shouldn't be, how could they do this?
And just one thing before we move on, Rey was pretty dang cool, and I'm sure she'll be good for the rest of the series, so
yeah,
she was in.
I mean, hey, she worked. He made it work.
I don't know how, because it was a woman.
Alright, so my thoughts on the trailer is, not necessarily we've seen, but, there have been Star Wars spin-offs before, the Christmas special, notably.
Right.
Which was my favorite movie.
Right. Do you speak Ewok yet?
I do. I have studied it for 18 years.
Perfect.
So, there was that, which was amazing. And then there was all the Clone Wars and Disney stuff.
Which has been great.
And then I remember hearing about, the old stuff with some old Sith Jedi stuff. I never read it myself, but there were, comics and, the short books about them.
Right, the EU. The extended universe for those.
Some Raven guy or something.
Right.
And, I mean, those never really...
It's
Revan. My bad.
Alright.
Those never really interested me. So I think it'll be interesting to see, what time period this is in, because...
This is before New Hope. Right before.
This is right before New Hope? I was not aware of that, but now I am. So yeah, that's good that it's not too far back. Maybe we'll see familiar characters. Who knows?
Right. And another point I like to make, and this was a gripe kind of most people who watched the trailer, was that it didn't look like exactly a Star Wars film, did it?
Yeah, it was kind of odd with their Hunger Games little scene with all the lights lighting up around her as she stands in the tunnel.
The visuals were somewhat the same, but we're seeing a whole new side of Star Wars, and it's become almost like comic book movies in a way, because it looks like they're exploring new genres other than just the sort of science fiction approach that they went for at first. I think this looks more like a heist sort of movie with their team of bounty hunters, and I gotta say that one guy who was dancing around Imperial troops with his sword or daibo, or I forget exactly what it was, but it looked awesome.
Yeah, very dangerous.
So I'm excited to see this sort of new approach. I hope it is different enough from the mainstream Star Wars so that it feels like a self-contained movie, but it's similar enough to the whole world that we feel comfortable with it. That makes sense.
Yeah. So Larry, the strawberry Pop-Tart, he did send in a couple of other questions. Thank you for those. We're not going to have time for this episode,
but we will read them.
But in future episodes, if we have time, we will read them. Thank you so much for your submission. Mm-hmm. That's what we think.
Right. That is exactly what we think of the movie.
That is.
Thank you for your submission. And if you'd like to send in your own submission, again, you can go on Gmail or you can go on our website.
Also,
both are thecomicbooknetwork.com.
For more just, questions you don't need answered on the podcast.
Right.
We both got an iFunny. Comment on one of our posts or something. We'll get back to you.
Right. And final thing before we go, remember you can find us on Spreaker. Probably you're listening to this on YouTube, which is one of our main sites right now. And we upload it again to our website, which is clean and nice because it was designed by our very own friend.
Thanos.
Jarvis Thanos. The second. No, the third. How dare you. Again, we thank you all for listening. And do you have a slogan yet? Have we come up with a slogan?
I don't think we've come up with a
slogan. All
slogan.
right, here's the slogan. See if you like it. Where kids can be a kid.
No, I hate it.
Okay, how about this one? All right, and we'll send you off on this, our very own slogan. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Okay.
I'm loving it.
It's pretty mediocre.
Okay.
Also, some of you saying we should add more art to this and stuff. We do this on Spreaker, so it's mostly just voice, and we have 30 minutes of just voice. But if you guys have any software you'd like to recommend to, to add that stuff in, let us know, because we're always looking to improve. Have a great week.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
It's mediocre.
Okay.